Hello, everyone. My name is Neto Marin. I'm developer advocate on the Actions on Google Developer Relations team in Google. Who knows what is Actions on Google? Raise the hand. Okay, we have 3 people. It's a record. Okay, this is why I'm hired. This is why I'm here. So, and also just to understand, who here has Android application published or iOS application on the stores working? Okay, great. Well, this session's idea is I want to show you how you can integrate your Android app in this case, but some aspects can be used also for iOS app or even mobile web apps. So, and how you can take advantage of the Google Assistant, and then how to use Google Assistant to increase your audience, have more users, and how this integration is possible. There's my Twitter. Feel free to follow. I just used to do a disclaimer. It's a personal Twitter that reflects Google's opinion, and sometimes I do some random posts about football, beer, my daughters, and technology. So please, and if you want to reach me, it's the easiest way so we can talk about technology and actions on Google. So in general, this is like this to show how we are doing some evolution on computing. So if you think like when we started, not started, but the mainframe when becoming more popular in companies, it is like a landmark, 1977. So we had centralized computing. We have punch cards. We have some few screens or dumb terminals to do the inputs and outputs. And then when it started becoming more popular, we started having the desktops. So the processing power went to the edge. At this time, we start being able to access BBS, internet, playing free cell on the job, on the work. So many things we could start doing with the desktops. And of course, these desktops drove us to the internet time where we can access internet from home, from everywhere almost, and start doing our jobs, our tasks using the internet. And based on this kind of input, the mobile was a new paradigm that comes. We use this time, 2007, because it's when Android and iOS were launched, for example. But if we think, for example, 2002, 2003, we already had some, what I used to call the grandparents of the smartphones, like Nokia N5 and 90 and N91. With like good cameras, GPS, media players. And at this time, people start discovering, for example, how to use the smartphones to connect to the internet, get their data. For example, I was living in Brazil at that time, and I remember the first mobile phones that we had there were extremely expensive. And accessing internet and mobile was something like for rich people, because it was extremely expensive. But then it started evolving, and sometimes today in Brazil or in some other poor countries, for example, the first contact with most of people with the internet is using mobile phones, using smartphones. We don't have them more. For example, remember when my first computer was in the family room with some cape covering it, like we must cover every day to don't get dust or something like that, get yellow, have to use something to clean up. But it was like the family computer, right? You have to share with your brother or sister, you have to share with your parents. You couldn't install game because it's pirate, it's virus, you broke the internet, something like that. But now we are using WhatsApp, communicators, messengers, whatever, and we talk with strangers, entering strangers' car, sleeping in strangers' bedrooms. So it's the mobile and the internet together. They change the way we do the relationships, and we believe that we are living a new time for the assistants. So not only the Google Assistant, we have many other platforms you probably know, but the assistants is now we are not anymore requesting for information, or you're not anymore taking your phone from your pocket and doing something. So, for example, in Google, we are calling ourselves a AI first company. But what does it mean really? Because seeing that you are a server, mobile first or API first, it's easy, right? Because then you can think about your services on a mobile perspective or an API perspective. But what does it mean being an AI first? Well, for us, For example, we try to use AI whatever is possible. Even on simple tasks. For example, if you have your Android phone and you have your keyboard, when you are trying to guess what is the next word you're going to type, this is machine learning, this is AI that we are using to guess what kind of word you're using, what kind of interaction you are doing. When we are trying to figure out how to offer a best route for your daily commute, something like that is also, we are doing AI on this continuous learning. And one thing that we start improving a lot is about the language understanding. Because our language is our API, right? So this is the way we can interact in a natural way than just giving voice commands, saying on or off or turn on, turn off, but communicating in a more natural way. And so we started with the Google Now, and then we evolved to the Google Assistant, and we announced it then in 2016. And in 2017, we had the Google Home going to the production, and right now we have many devices, like we have smart displays, we have TVs with Assistant, many devices. We have approximately more than 500 million devices with Assistant built in. This means that these devices, in a different form factors like earphones, headphones, speakers like Google Home, phones, Android or iOS, smart displays, cameras, a lot of form factors. These devices, they have the Assistant software embedded into them, right? So you can use them to activate the Google Assistant and ask something. And also you have plenty of devices that are compatible with Google Assistant, like vacuum cleaners, the robots, even some cookers. You can cook something and ask to check the temperature, check the timing, for example, just using Conversation. And we are already present in many countries. We are planning to expand this list, but we have, so I think it's around 32 languages already available, and you can take advantage of these languages where you publish your action. But, so this is a developer conference. What does it mean for a developer? How we can take advantage of this Google Assistant thing and use on our tools, on our companies? So first, I would like to compare, for example, the platforms. So to make it easier, I used to say that, for example, the Google Assistant is our conversation between and Google. I like to compare with, for example, the Android operating system. So as we have on Android, the applications running on the Android, so you can develop using all the Android framework, and we can extend the Android features. On the Google Assistant, you can use the actions on Google to extend the Google Assistant and create your own actions. So in a similar way, it's like actions are for the Google Assistant are the same what applications, apps are for Android or iOS or even web apps, for example. And then we have the devices with the Google Assistant built in. So when you publish when you create your action, you can publish this action, and this action will be available on any Google Assistant enabled device. You can configure which country you want to distribute, what kind of, if it's, say, for family, for example, there's a lot of configurations, but in the default, it's be available for all devices on all form factors, so you can have an extension of 500 million devices able to download to use your action on Google. So this is our platform. Actions on Google is basically the way you create apps for the Google Assistant. And here is a diagram for a basic, to give you a basic overview about the platform. So here we have the example, the conversation example for the personal chef. This personal chef is our sample that you can ask for a recipe, and the personal chef will ask you what do you have in your fridge, and then can suggest you a recipe or something to cook. In this case, for example, when you say, okay, Google, talk to personal chef, the Google Assistant using speech-to-text, natural language processing, knowledge graph, and user profile will suggest, okay, this user wants to talk with this action called personal chef. At this moment, that symbol there, it's for Dialogflow. Dialogflow, it's the former API. It was a startup. Google acquired it some years ago. And we changed it now to it's a native language processor platform where you can build your actions on Google. And this platform helps you, for example, to extract all the entities, all the intents. Intents are, for example, what the user in this case is asking. For example, it's kind of code outside, so I would like, and then this you asking, for example, for a soup. Imagine if you have to do this by yourself, for example, taking these strings, processing from the speech to text, and then get this text, use regular expression and grammar rules, and do all the processing to extract what the user wants to do, and then match to your backend function, for example, will take a lot of work, right? So this case, Dialogflow will do all this for you in all the languages you support. So Brazilian Portuguese, Polish, Germany, Dutch, French, English, and different versions of English, British English, Canadian English, so you can use different of them. And Google Assistant will do all the work for speech to text and text to speech and speech to text. And the Dialogflow will do the intent matching and intent extraction. So basically, short history is when the user says something, we will process this for you, and you can enable webhook. I want to explain a few minutes later. Your webhook, you will receive like a function call with some parameters and values, then just an API call that you could have. For example, you can have the same search, the same API search that you use on your mobile, on your website, but accessed by a voice conversation. Because at the end, you can use the same webhook, the same endpoint you're already using for your mobile application. So the first point, for example, that you can take advantage when you're doing, specifically this case for Android apps, is use the slices. Have you heard about slices on Android here? No? One? Okay. So slices are kind of slices of your app, that when you do on the right way, you can create using broadcast receivers. You're going to see the code. These slices, this piece of your app, can be displayed on the assistant interface. So this is good. For example, imagine you have this. This sample is for, in this case, is for the like an Airbnb-like app. So you have a check-in and check-out, and a picture from the house you are booking, for example. So imagine I'm asking for, okay, I want to choose my trip to Seattle from 12 to 19, and I want to see some information. I don't need to open the app, for example, and go on my history and check my next upcoming trips. I could just ask, okay, Google, show me my upcoming trips from netobooking.com, something like that. Just created this name. So imagine, and then you got this name, and then instead of opening the app, navigating to history, upcoming trips, you can just have this on your assistant. And this is much easier, and also it's a good way to increase the engagement, because now the user can click on this, for example, open your app and do interaction much easier than have to remember how to find and how to search and everything else. And also some slices you can interact, for example, brightness level, so you can change the brightness level and you can develop something for your action. So to test on emulator, the only thing we need before is download the slice viewer. It's kind of, it's an application that we developed so you can emulate the slice behavior so you can test. There are some commands. These commands are present. These commands are in our documentation, so don't worry to take picture or copy. But just to show, it's 3 lines of commands because you can install using ADB. So basically, it's nothing complicated. In like 1 minute, is ready to go. And then now it's something new that you have to do is create your slice provider. This provider will be in your Android manifest, and you explain the package name and the name of the action is executing the category. So basically, when you go on if you are using the Android Studio, so new order slice provider, the Android Studio will change for you, so you don't need to go and change by yourself. Just showing that if you need to inspect the code, it will look something like that. Okay, so this is where you start. You're creating your slice. And then here, the basic hello world, you have to create your slice on the bind slice because it's like kind of a service. So when it's executed, it needs to be bound. And you create here the list builder because basically you have a list with some, in this case, we are adding the hello world. And now I'm using the add set title. Okay, here. So it's just creating the URI, getting the context outside, check if it's not null, and then returning the list builder. The rest of for example, the position, calculating the size and displaying, everything will be done by the platform. You don't need to concern about how the size, orientation, something like that. So this is done by the Android platform because it can be displayed on different system surface. So it's just a matter of you building each one of the elements you want to use. So, for example, you can have an interactive slice, right? Instead of just showing information, you could have, for example, a button. In this case, we are using a list builder, adding a row here, and then set the primary action, active action. Then we're going to use the slice action, and we create a pending intent, calling what you want to call, for example, enter the app, or if you want to launch an URL. What else you want to do? You can using the pending intent to launch your activity. In this case, we are launching the main activity class, but you can launch if you want, or start, for example, other service, a broadcast receiver. So this is the way. I'm showing Java code, but of course you can use Kotlin if you want. In our documentation, you have both snippets, Java and Kotlin. So it depends on you what you want to use. And then here's it's slightly more complicated, but the point here is because we are adding how you can handle the input here. So first part is again adding the row. So set title. I'm adding the subtitle optimize brightness, and then we are adding now a primary action that's a toggle action that is declared on the top slice action. And then we are defining the input range between 100 and set the value for 45. And then we create the list builder. When the user interacts with this list, you have a pending intent again, creating the toggle intent, and then using the get broadcast, because we have the broadcast receiver. Because we are not opening one activity, so we need to send this message to someone adjust, for example, the brightness. So it could be a configuration activity if you prefer, but in this case, we are using the broadcast. And here is the receiver. Of course, just a sample, we are showing a toast. So, but again, it's the regular broadcast receiver you use on Android. Remember the time limit, the kind of broadcast you can use, all the limitations you could find. But in this case, you are just showing a toast and say, okay, toggle. And then you can check here. But the point is, think about what the user can be, what kind of benefit the user can get from your app integrating with the Google Assistant. Because in this case, for example, sometimes, I imagine probably some of you have this problem, user installs the application and then sometimes forgets, then return like just once a month, or sometimes they never return. Or maybe even with the app, they prefer to use the website, for example. So with this kind of, we're using Slice, you can offer a new way, a new entry point, so they can try, and instead of having to open your app or check something, they can ask for assistant, and then your app can just show this information. So it's a good way to think about how many people can interact with your app, okay? So, but how we can expand the app now? So how we can take advantage of Google Assistant itself. So first, we have to think about going beyond the Android to Google Assistant. So this may be the point where some of you, okay, Neto, I don't want to develop one more thing. It's one more platform to develop, one more platform to cover. How it will be a benefit for my product, for example. Let's imagine some situations, for example, because in general, we know that Android devices have different form factors already, but the platform supports gracefully, including recently, I imagine you saw we are supporting all the foldable devices, for example. So Android is now, I can say, for example, if you think beginning when we start having the fragments, since that time we evolved a lot, right? The first versions of fragment were like a nightmare, but now we are in a much better position now with Android X, with Jetpack. But okay, you are used to Android development, your users are comfortable, you have a lot of users in your app. But any other devices that you are not covering right now, these users, they are migrating now. They are not more concerned on having a phone, the concern is, how can I use this service? And you're not, okay, I have this service on my phone, but probably if the user has, for example, a competitor that offers a similar service, but the user can access these services in different surfaces on different moments. So, for example, which kind of moment? We can split our day in some situations like that. I think most of you maybe can pick some, like all or some of these moments. For example, when you wake up, you check the weather. This is something when I was living in Brazil, is not so, I can be honest, checking the weather was not something really important to me because Brazil is almost sunny every day. So it's okay. So no problem. But when I moved to US or when I'm visiting Europe, so I know because why they are so concerned about the weather. So and this is a part of the routine, right? So you wake up, sometimes you check the weather, you can ask the weather, or for example in the traffic, and sometimes, I don't know, you are taking a commute for 5 kilometers, 6 kilometers, it takes 30 minutes, 40 minutes. So in general, you try to use this time to hear a podcast, choose audiobook, something like that, or news, media, and also sometimes productivity, like check your tasks, what you have to do for that day. So these are part of a routine. And I could say that you have, for example, one different app for each of these tasks, right? Maybe. You check the weather in your phone, and then you use the podcast on Pocket Casts. Then media, maybe you are using Feedly, something like that. Productive, you are using Todoist. So you have many apps during the day that you have these moments that you are using. And sometimes, for example, you are cooking, or you are driving, or doing sports, or even you're couch watching TV, you don't want to take your phone, or your phone is charging, you don't want to take your laptop. So some cases that we don't have our phone near to us, or we just don't want to use the phone or to use a computer, right? Sometimes you're relaxing, watching your favorite stream service, your news series, and then you realize that tomorrow morning you have a meeting in the other side of the city, like it's a larger commute, and you want to check the weather because if it's raining, you probably want to use your own car, or you want to leave earlier. So you could ask the assistant to do this for you. For example, check the traffic conditions, or check the weather, or book a ride in your favorite ride service, for example. So in this case, Google Assistant can help you because it's like a new way to engage with your users. Like I said, the Google Assistant, we can offer what we call rich contextual information. Because, for example, when the user is using on their car, on a speaker, on a smart display, or even on their phone, each device has their capabilities, their situation. So, for example, if I'm running, I'm wearing my earphone, so probably I don't want to see a picture that someone sent on my group, WhatsApp group, for example. So probably I prefer to check how far it's my wife, so I can meet with her when I got home, so to have dinner together, something like that. And also, we have a large number of devices available. So this point, for example, we can go from specific platforms like Android or iOS. You can go to more generic platforms. And so something that we can take advantage in this case is in payments. I'm going to talk more specific about payment, how we can sell and stuff on actions. But identity, knowledge graph, location, machine learning, individual speech recognition. And this is very cool. For example, like I said, I'm married, I have 2 kids, and it's configured. It's my home will have like 4 Google Homes at home, and then my daughter, she's 7 years old, and there's a fun situation. I say, hey, Maria, this is Google Home, but she calls Hey Google because the way she interacts. So she assumed that his name is Hey Google. So this is Hey Google, can ask everything you want. So you can ask to tell you a story, can ask to play a music. She said, okay, nice, Dad. Can I ask everything? Yeah, you can ask everything. Then she went to her desk, take her notebook, and say, "Hey Google, do my homework." Said, "Okay, this is a nice use case. We have to maybe make a feature suggestion to the managers." But the point is, it's possible. For example, when she asked for music, and then she realized she could play Despacito for almost 8 hours in a row. Yes. But the good point is, since it's well configured, for example, there's no risk when she asks it to play a video, it starts playing some inappropriate video, for example. So we have speech recognition, it's personalized. So if I ask to play some kind of music or video, it knows my voice, and based on my history on YouTube, for example, can suggest a video different that my daughter or my wife is asking to play. So, and then you can take advantage of this in your actions as well. I won't talk too much about the actions today because my idea is to talk more about the integration with Android. But if you want to talk with me after this talk or talking on Twitter, I can send you some links and some reference you can take advantage. And so this is the point. What I'm proposing to you here is, okay, you have an Android app. Let's build an action to complement your experience of your app. For example, the first requirement probably you're going to have is link the accounts, because basically, probably, you already have your user base with your passwords, with all the data you already have about this user. So, but in the Google Assistant, of course, it's not the ideal that you ask the user to get your phone and do a login and type password and type username, right? So it's not an ideal world. Imagine I am trying to interact with your action, and it's okay. I want to find some food, some place to go tonight. Okay, I have to go to your phone and do your login there. So I have to take my phone out. So the idea is that we find a way to do this, what we call account linking between the assistant and the phone. And the point is, for example, there's a very happy path that's, for example, our user will hit your token endpoint using OAuth, for example. You check the data. Explain how you can check this data in your user database. It's okay. Neto is a recognized user. So his ID on Google Assistant is 123. His email here on my system is netomarin@google.com. I can link the accounts, and when I start interacting through the Google Assistant, your system knows that this ID on Google Home is the same of my account in your system. And why is exactly you need to do this linking? Because on Google Assistant, we don't persist any personal information in the devices for privacy reasons. So when you start using the endpoint, the webhook of the developers, they don't know your account. They don't know your name. They don't know your email as a user. They have to ask you permission for that. So, okay, to access information, I need to know your name and email from Google. You have to give your consent, and after this consent, we share this information with the developer. So if the developers, they don't need this information, for example, many actions, they don't ask for name or email because they don't need this information. Imagine an action to find the nearest airport. So why does this action need my email, for example? I'm just asking, okay, find the nearest airport, the nearest airport. But to know the nearest airport, this action will need to know my location, for example. In this case, they also have to ask explicitly about the consent. So, okay, to know the nearest airport, they need to know your location. And then you can say yes. And then the Google system will share your location. So it might sound complicated because I have to ask the permissions all the time. Yes, but it's concerned with the user's privacy, user's data consent. So you need to give your consent before you share the information. So again, this is why you need to implement this flow to do the account linking. Because when you start doing this, okay, I want to find a table or book a table. The endpoint at this point, if they don't ask your permission, they don't know what's your email, what's your first name, last name. So this is why we need to do this integration. If you are using only voice, for example, you can use just this simplest system where you can implement a token endpoint, what we call Google signing. We have all solution ready, so you don't need to code extra code. But for the other situations, like you already have your system with a database, you need to use, for example, okay, sorry. This is an example of how it happens for Todoist, for example. So you have this on your Todoist, right? You click on Connect with Google, then you choose your account, and then you can access your application. On the assistant, you start asking for something, and then the Google system, the Android platform in this case, will give you the account linking box choose option. You choose your account, and then it's linked. So the action doesn't have access to your data before you consent the login in this case, right? And here is not the so happy path. Imagine you already have your system. So you're using, I don't know, Google signing with Firebase, or you develop your own logging system, and you want to integrate with your action, right? So the idea is still having some seamless integration, the way that user don't need to type anything. So you can't implement using OAuth integration. OAuth is a industry standard platform, so it's easy to find documentation about it. We are following all the standard recommendations. So what happened is, when you don't find the user, in this case you asked for permission, the user granted the permission, and you didn't find the email on your database. You have two options. You can allow us to create the account. In this case, we'll hit your backend and say, okay, look, these are the user data, like first name, last name, and email. If you need more information, you can ask later in your app, for example, if you don't have, or any other point. But we are assuming that for this situation, you just need first name, last name, and email. And then you validate this token, you create the account according to your own rules. So you need to, I don't know, communicate with another external service, validate any kind of data, send an email to validation. You can do your thing. And then you return to our webhook, because in this process, we are working with two webhooks. One is your webhooks to validate the ID token and receive the data. And the other webhook is our webhook, where we return the data for this new account. So you said, okay, I create the account for this user, and it's linked. So the next time you know that user on Google Assistant is the new user you created in your database. And you save the token. It's the standard usage for OAuth. So refresh token, access token, all the standard for OAuth. Or if you don't allow us to create the account for you, for example, you need to ask the user to fill to read the terms of service, or you need them to agree with something specifically, you can send the user to a web page and do the login there. And the assistant will handle this flow for you. You'll send to your web page. And when you finish the user creation, the assistant will close this page, return to the flow, and using the same webhook here from us, our webhook, you send this data to us. So it's one step more, because you are deciding to create the account by yourself. But it allows you to do some specific process, like reading a TOS or agree with something. So this is a flow. We have a sample that shows step-by-step this implementation, right? The only thing we don't have in our sample is the OAuth implementation, because it's more, each one has to implement their own OAuth. If you want to use, there's some free OAuth servers in the market, like OAuth 0 and other options. But in our case, in our sample, we are considering that you already have the OAuth implementation working. So, and also if you do there's a good search service called Google. If you do a Google for OAuth integration and Google sign-in, you'll find some Google developer experts and other developers that already shared their experiences on blog posts. It's very useful. And the last but not the least important is digital subscriptions and app products. This is the way that you can monetize your action. So, of course, we work for love, We love to program, to develop, but you need to pay the rent, pay the bills, right? So this is a way that you can monetize your action, for example. You can charge for action or charge for a subscription. And one thing we decided to do in this platform is, since you already offer the Google Play Store subscriptions and the in-app purchase for Android, we are using the same platform. So if you already have in-app products through the Android device, for the Android application, you can use the same products, for example, on the Google Assistant, on the Actions on Google. And also, for example, you can offer this as an advantage for your service, because you can say, okay, look, imagine you are a news app. If you subscribe to my news app, you can now listen to this news in your assistant when you are commuting, for example. Or if you got this upgrade, you can hear more time or have, meditation application on your home device. So you can offer some specific packages, or at least you can offer an extension of the subscriptions to different devices. This can be a very important difference or strength from your product. So basically, here's the sample for the economists. They are implementing this. If you are a subscriber on their Android app, you can listen to the news through the Google Assistant, for example. So you can do the same in your app if you prefer. Or even, imagine you can create like a freemium model for Google Assistant, right? And say, okay, and what if I don't have an Android application? What if I don't have a merchant account on Google Play? You have to create one account. It's $25 that you must pay to once. It's not every year. It's just once, $25. You create your Google account. And after that, you'll be able to go to the Play Store and add your products. The only caveat here is because before adding products, you need to create a project, Android project, and upload an empty APK. We know that's not the ideal flow. We are already working to take this part of the Google Play Store console and move into our Actions on Google console, or offer a better way to do this integration. But imagine you went there, created these products, and you create your action. Imagine your action is about sports scores. So say, okay, I want to support my team. I'm from Brazil, so my team is Santos. Okay, yeah, so you can know about the upcoming games, but to know the score and to receive live notification, you have to subscribe to our live system, and then you have to pay $1 per month, something like that. And I could say, yes, I want to subscribe. And then the Google Play will handle all the transaction for you only by voice. So you don't need to open your phone. You don't need to type anything. And you might be scared now. Okay, so my kid could buy something from my assistant, or even my brother can buy something, or any other person could buy something using my device. Remember when I said about the voice recognition? So when you register your account, you do the voice match. So if the voice doesn't match, won't allow to use the account to validate the purchase. So, and if you do the match, you can now, if for example it's not that match, just one user, at least you'll be prompted to type the password in this case, because the voice we didn't have a match for the voice. So we know that it's complicated, and so we are offering this way. So if sometimes you get for example, the prompt to type your password, don't get mad. It's just a more security reason to match your voice, because sometimes we have cold, or we lost our voice, something. So the match of the voice could be not so perfect, but sometimes you have to type your password, for example. This is the flow for how you use the SQs. SQs are the name for product ID. So imagine you have your list of products, your products list, and why you have to check the list of SKUs available to sell. Because when you go to the Play Store and you add all the products there, you have to fill, for example, price and which location that product is available. Because some locations, they could have special prices, or you don't want to offer a specific kind of content for a specific country because of rights of image, for example. So you can, for example, in this case, you can say, okay, this product is only for Belgium. This other product is only for Brazil. In these cases, and who will decide which products the user can buy? Google Play Store will handle this for you. So you need to have a list. This list must be in your own backend. So you retrieve this list of products that you want to offer. You send to the Google Play the list of SKUs that you want to sell. The Google Play will return, okay, to this user, this is the list with products available for purchase. And then you show, you tell the name of the products, or you show a list or carousel in the assistant interface. User confirms the purchase, and you deliver the content. So, and all of this through voice. And this is the cool thing, though the user, you can remove or at least have a lower friction between the impulse of buying something or purchasing something, and then, okay, it's very easy to purchase. Probably you already purchased something on like, okay, one-click purchase. It's similar, it sounds familiar. Imagine you can just say, instead of one click, it's one word purchase. So you could just say one word and could purchase something. So great powers, great responsibilities, take care. So in general, what we say for companion conversational actions is think beyond the Android app. And this one message that it's very important to understand, because sometimes some specific actions or some specific interactions, they are not possible on a mobile application, or they are not ideal on the mobile application, but they could be easier or faster on a voice interaction. So try to imagine how you could interact or could ask someone to do something, and think this one as a conversation, right? And do you know how your user uses your application? For example, do you know what are their pains, and how you could take advantage of voice actions, voice commands, voice conversations to make them fast? A good example is airline check-in, for example. Because they already have our data, right? They have the book reference, they have our name, they have almost everything on their site. Why do I have to click again on a web page, fill everything again, and then just confirm, like pass through 7 screens or 5 screens to do a check-in that they have all my data? Why shouldn't I just say, okay, I authorize my check-in or do my check-in on United, and then the check-in is ready and I receive the boarding pass? So this is something that you have on your mobile app, but you could do easier on a voice interaction, for example, just one sample. So you can think more things. And this is something that do not replicate your app for a voice. Is like, if you think like 5 years ago, when I started working with mobile since Java 2ME, JME. For example, just for fun fact, my first international talk was here in Devoxx in 2009 about Java ME. So I like this mobile, this kind of world, embedded world. And at that time I was saying, hey, look, we are migrating from the web world to the mobile, and you don't need to take all your screens on web and just create new screens on mobile, because even the screens on mobile are tiny screens. And the same thing I'm saying now for voice. You don't need to take all your features, all your screens you have on phone, and change them to conversations, because sometimes maybe the conversation or the voice interface is not the suitable interface for that. It's confidential. Imagine you are checking your account balance on a voice in your metro, and then you ask your account balance, and the action starts saying your account balance, for example. I think it's not good. Unless you have much money, you want to show your money, but in general, it's not a good thing. So think what the user journey is, how they can take advantage of my action using voice. And think about the delightful experience. So when I say delightful experiences, is more, when the wow moment, when you do something on new interface, a new system, you say, oh, shit, this is good. This is interesting. It's not just, okay, I'm just giving a command. It can be a very simple thing. For example, at my house, I configured my lights to turn off when I'm going to sleep, and I just say good night, and so I start turning off the lights, setting up the air conditioner, and turn on the alarm, something like that. Whoa, this is good because not sometimes, almost the times I forgot to turn off something, I had to wake up, stand up, go there, and turn off everything. So this is something easy that you can do, and it's okay. Wow, this is nice. This is useful to my life, and it's not that complicated. So imagine what kind of experience you can provide to your users, right? If you want to learn more, I hope you are getting interested on doing actions on Google, integrate your actions. Please check out our community if you want to use. Yes, we're still using G+. We know that it will be shut down next year, so meantime, we're still using it for communicating. So there's a lot of developers. We are almost 8,000 developers there. It's a good place to talk, ask your questions, share what you are doing. The documentation page, developers.google.com/actions. The site for slices is under the developers.android.com. So if you want to check more about slices, it's under the Android website. In our Twitter, it's Actions on Google. And if you want to share something with us, ask a question, you can use the hashtag AUGDevs. Okay? We have more 4 minutes. Doesn't it have question? One question? Okay.
Yeah, is the Google Assistant platform available also on the Android things?
Oh, yeah. The Android things is just for build the IoT device, so you can't access the assistant because the app assistant is not available there. But you can use, if you want to do something with IoT, you can use the Assistant SDK, Google, Assistant SDK, and using a Raspberry Pi, microphone, and USB, you can build your device. You can download the image from our website and use a Raspberry Pi. And then you can build your IoT device. Okay? Any other question? Oh, okay. Thank you very much.